السلام عليكم.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
السلام عليكم. Please mute yourself. Please mute yourself. We are mute all, admit all.
Yes.
Okay. Are you ready? Let's start. We don't have much time. Let's start. Please mute yourself. Please write your name on the chat box. Let's start our session today. Welcome everybody. We start with National Teacher Training Program NTTP Egypt. Workshop Year 2 Training, Workshop 5, Session 8. Do you hear me? My voice is clear?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, dear.
Okay. Today's agenda. Today we are going to talk about an icebreaker, understanding thinking skills, and language practice activity. Let's start with the first one, an icebreaker. We have guess the missing number. This is a puzzle. I give you a puzzle. Please look at it carefully and try to think what is the missing number. I give you the chance to answer it at the end of the session. Okay? Okay? Are you ready? Who can answer? Okay? Who can answer? I'll give you a chance to at the end of this session to know what is the missing number. I give you much time. Do you hear me clearly? Is there an answer? Mr. Ahmed? Mr. Ahmed Mahdi, don't answer now. I'll give you the chance at the end of the session. Think of the missing number. Let's start with understanding thinking skills. By the end of this session, we will have please mute yourself. Categorize thinking skills and selected questions that could be used to develop them. Applied thinking skills in a discussion about the problematic teaching situations. Today, we are going to talk about two things, Bloom's taxonomy and the National Curriculum for England. These are going to talk about Bloom's taxonomy. Bloom's identifies three low order skills, remembering, understanding, and applying. He also identifies the high order skills, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. But the National Curriculum for England identifies high order skills, information processing, reasoning, acquiring, creative thinking, and evaluating. Let's start with Bloom's taxonomy. Bloom's taxonomy started with remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. We know that you start with remembering as a low order skills, and creating is the high order skills. What about the National Curriculum for England? The National Curriculum started with information processing and ending with evaluating. And know that there is a difference between Bloom's taxonomy and the National Curriculum for England. Bloom's taxonomy started with remembering, but the National for English. Please, Miss Hala, mute yourself, Miss Hala. Bloom's taxonomy ends with creating, but the national curriculum for England ends with evaluating. Let's start with the second question. Please mute yourself. Please mute yourself. Miss Wala, please mute yourself, Miss Wala. Miss Hala, please mute yourself. Let's start. What is the difference between Bloom's taxonomy and the national curriculum for England? The national curriculum for England starts with information processing, but Bloom's taxonomy starts with remember order skill. The second, in the national curriculum for England, evaluating is higher than creating, but in Bloom's taxonomy, creating is higher than evaluating. What should the teacher do to develop thinking skills? The teacher should help the students to use a mix of low and high order thinking skills. I'll ask you now, what is the difference between lower and higher order thinking skills? The first one, what are the lower order thinking skills and what are the higher order thinking skills? Please listen carefully to the tape and try to guess what is the meaning of lower order thinking skills and higher order thinking skills. Let's start. Listen carefully.
Lower order thinking skills can be defined as simple and unchallenging skills, such as when you are storing factual knowledge. Higher order thinking skills involve tasks which are more difficult and challenging, such as assimilating information from multiple sources, determining its truth, and using it to make sound judgments.
Okay, what are the lower order thinking skills? Do you know what is the meaning of lower order thinking skills? Who can give me the answer?
Yeah, Mr.AbdulWahab.
Okay, Miss Sahar, go on. Go on, Miss Sahar.
Lower order thinking skills. Yes. Lower
Okay.
order thinking skills are simple thinking skills that doesn't need mental activities to do, such as facting or remember facts or
Okay.
sorting facts.
Okay, thank you.
Higher order thinking skills.
Okay, Ms. Sahar, thank you about lower order thinking skill. What about higher order thinking skill? Is there anyone can give us other definition? Mr. Hab, go on, Mr. Hab. You raise your hand. Go on, Mr. Hab. Mr. Hab. Miss Nashwa.
Yes, Mr.
Okay, go on.
Mr.AbdulWahab, I'm with you.
Go on, Mr. Hab. What are the higher order thinking skills?
Higher thinking skills that are go beyond memorizing information, as explaining relationship between parts, putting parts together, and problem solving.
Okay, thank you. Look at the definitions. Lower order thinking skills can be defined as a simple and challenging skills, such as when you are storing factual knowledge. But higher order thinking skills involve tasks which are more difficult and challenging, such as assimilating information. Let's start with the second part. What are rules and thinking which one you usually have when thinking about different problems and situations? We have some. What are the rules? What are your rules? The first one is organizer. The second one is realist, positive, creative, negative, and the last one is emotional. Please mute yourself. Okay, what do you think of organizer? What do you think of organizer? Organizer can do what? Go in, Miss Sola.
The voice.
Who is speaking?
AbdulWahab.
Okay. Who
This
can
is
speak?
sometimes the voice is not clear. The voice is not clear, Mr. AbdulWahab. I'm Sahar Mahmoud.
Okay, Miss Sahar, the voice is not clear. I tried. You don't hear me clearly?
Yeah, I hear somebody talk. Yes,
Okay.
now.
Is it clear now? Okay, Miss Sahar, is it
Okay,
clear?
yes.
Okay. What do you mean by
Yes.
organizer? Organizer, someone who organizer, someone who
Nice.
organize, who plan. Now
Good guys
what?
and the facilitate.
Okay. Now what do you mean by realist? Realist, a man who
Can
Miss Wala Mustafa. Miss Wala Mustafa. Can you speak? Miss Amira Ibrahim. Okay. Organizer, you like to lead and make sure all points of view are represented. Realist, you like to find out information on a subject and you know all the facts. Positive, you can only see the positive side of the situation. Creative,
think
when
skillfully.
whatever the situation, your approach is to suggest lots of different situations. Negative, you can only see the negative side of the situation. The last one is emotional. You respond to any situation is an emotional one. This can be either a positive or a negative response. We have, this is a discussion between teachers about teaching large classes. If you want to teach large classes, what do you suggest? These are discussion between some teachers. I choose beautiful teachers and pretty teachers for you. This is, please listen and decide which teacher is taking whose role. Please mute yourself. Please, Miss Nihad. Miss Nihad. Okay. I mute one. There is another one. Again, which and decide which teacher is taking which rule. Let's go to the first one. The first one, please listen to him and try to think. What is rule do you think? Organizer, realist, positive, negative, or anyone? Please listen to it.
Teaching large groups is okay, but you have to make sure everyone knows what they're doing and when to do it. You just need to plan really carefully. I make very detailed lesson plans.
Okay, this is the first one. The second one.
I find teaching large classes quite exciting, to be honest. It can be much more fun than working with normal groups.
What do you think of the first one? The first one is organizer, positive, negative, realist, or anyone else. What do you think? Do you
I think he's a realist.
you think he is
Realist.
the realist? Okay. طب what about the second two?
Positive.
The second two is positive. Okay. You can check the answer after that. The third one.
I find teaching large classes so tiring. I much prefer teaching smaller groups.
What do you think?
Negative.
Okay. Who is speaking?
Negative.
Negative.
Okay.
Negative.
The third one. The fourth.
I think I'd like to clarify exactly what we mean by large classes. How many learners is it? 30? 40? 50?
Okay. Who's he?
Organizer.
Organizing.
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 What about number?
Yes.
Everyone knows that
Okay.
teaching large groups is impossible and nobody really learns anything.
She is. She is.
Negative.
Emotional.
Negative.
She is negative.
Emotional.
Emotional.
Okay. Let's talk about the last one.
Large group, you can do a much wider range of speaking activities, like pyramid discussions, mingles, class surveys. None of these really work as well with smaller groups.
Let's check
Positive.
the last one is
Creative.
Positive.
Positive.
okay. Let's check it. Number 1 is organizer. Number 2 is positive. Number 3 is emotional. Number 4 is realist. Negative. And the last one is creative. Discussing these problems, we have some problems we can discuss them. Which one of these problems that you usually want to discuss? What role you are taking during this discussion? We have some problems. We can discuss only one of them for the time. We can. What about mixed abilities? If there is a mixed abilities in the class, how can you discuss this problem? How can you? What role you can use in this problem? Mr. Hab, go on, Mr. Hab. You raise your hand.
Yes, Mr. AbdulWahab.
Go on, Mr. Hab.
For this problem, I can vary my techniques and vary my exercises.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Hab. Is there an idea? What else? Is there an idea?
Yes, we can divide the class into mixed abilities groups. They can work together.
Okay.
Cooperatively and collaboratively.
Okay, Ms. Sahar. What about number 2, encouraging shy learners to speak English? How can we encourage them? How can
inside the group, working within the groups.
Who is speaking?
Yes, I'm Sahar.
Okay, Ms. Sahar.
I'm Sahar.
Go on, Ms. Sahar. How can we
can be encouraged by working within groups?
Encourage them by working in groups.
We can give simple tasks to do.
Or give them simple tasks to do. Some, I think some participants are. Someone is in the kitchen. I think so. I think someone of participants are in the kitchen. Please, Miss. Okay. The second one, we can say we can choose simple tasks for them, and we can them to speak and put them in groups. Okay. What about how to motivate teenagers? Number 3. Who can speak?
Yes.
Okay, Miss Sahar. Go on, Miss Sahar. Please. Someone. Go on, Miss Sahar.
Yes. Working with teenagers is sensitive task. We can give them some exercises or tasks that are related to their interests and hobbies. They can work on. There must be some fun for them, some interest, so they can encourage to work.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Sahar. Thank you for sharing us your ideas today. What about number 4, dealing with learners who never do their homework? How can we deal with pupils who can't do their homework? Who can speak? Mr. Said, I can't hear his voice today. Mr. Ahmed Sami, can you hear your voice today?
Yes, Mr. AbdulWahab, I am with you.
Mr. Said, we are waiting you. Dealing
Thank
with
you, Mr.
learners learners who never do their homework. How can you do it? How can you deal with them?
I think we can communicate with their parents and tell them about the problems to help us.
Okay, you ask their parents to help you. Okay, yes. Thank you, Mr. Said. Is there an idea? Another one. Who can give me his
It's okay,
idea?
Mr. Abdulwahab.
Okay, Miss Sahar.
Mr. Abdulwahab, okay.
Okay, Miss Sahar. Go on.
Okay, from my experience, yes, from my experience, as for students who don't do their homework, I have an suggestion. We can do the homework with the students in the class,
We
either
can.
in the same class after we finish our lesson. We can do the homework together, or the next class we can decide the first 15 minutes for revising and doing the homework in the class, because maybe some students don't have interest or don't have anyone at home who can help them, so they don't do the homework, or they are lazy students or negligent students. So we have to take with their hands first in the class and do the homework together, uh, and make some fun for it, so they can be encouraged to do the homework themselves. That's
Okay, thank you, Miss Sahar. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. You depended on practicing. You want them to
yeah,
practice using the. Okay. Now,
yeah.
what about a noisy class? What can you do with a noisy class?
Oh,
Okay, Miss Rasha, raise your hand. Go on, Miss Rasha. We want to hear your voice.
Yes, Mr.
Go on, Miss Rasha.
Yes, Mr.
What can you do?
Yes, I can lower my voice and ask many questions.
Ask us them many questions about the noisy classes. What else?
And low my voice.
Lower your voice.
And lower my voice.
You can
Yes.
use different tones to help students to pay attention for you. I think so. You mean that? Okay. You can different tones to help students to hear you clearly. Mr. Ahmed Sami, is there an idea?
Yes,
Okay, Mr. Ahmed.
you can ask them to do some simple orders like hands up. When they listen to you, they raise their hands and stop talking.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ahmed. Mr. Hab, raise your hand. Is there an idea?
Yes, Mr. AbdulWahab.
Go on, Mr. Hab.
I think putting certain rules before starting the lesson is very important. And also divide the class into groups and give each one a certain.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hab. You mean that
please,
you
Mr. AbdulWahab. Please,
go
Mr.
on,
AbdulWahab.
go on, Mr. Said. We hear you.
We have to know that noisy class is not always bad. Something we call this healthy noise. When they are practicing or solving exercises, this is called healthy noise.
You mean that there is a healthy noise and there is another unhealthy noise. Healthy noise they help during the learners practicing.
Yes.
But unhealthy, the pupils are noisy only.
Yes.
Talking, listening, playing, or anyone else. Okay. I think the first thing we can do, we made rules. You can put rules. Use classroom management at first and put rules at first, and they can follow them. Miss Wala, you have an idea. Give us your idea, Miss Wala. We hear you.
I'll call students individually, not as a group. I'll say things once only. Give noisy students more responsibilities to do and encourage active listening. They should listen more, they talk.
Okay, thank you for this time for these problems. We don't have much time to discuss 10 problems. We can ask them to discuss in the second time, inshallah. Language practice activities. By the end of this session, we will have identify the skills and all language that different activities practice. Recognize how some activities are flexible and can be adapted to different levels and ages. Language practice. We have some questions. We can answer them. What kind of activities do you use regularly with your learners? Do you use with the textbook, or do you have activities which you adapt? at these activities useful? Are these activities useful for your learners, and why? Are there any activities would you like to use with your learners? The first one, what kind of activities do you use regularly with your learners? Who can answer? Who can? Is there anyone else? Miss Wala, you raise your hand. Can you answer, Miss Wala?
Word games, riddles, songs, tongue twisters.
Tongue twisters.
Yes.
Okay, who is speaking?
Storytelling, rhymes.
Rhymes. Who is speaking?
Yes.
Thank you, Miss Wala. Who is speaking? Miss Sahar? Go on, Miss Sahar. We hear you. I think the boys.
And puzzles.
You can use riddles and puzzles. What else, Miss Sahar?
Crosswords is very
Crosswords?
enjoyable. Yes.
Okay. Is there any idea? Is there any activities else?
We have speaking.
Who's else? Thank you, Ms. Sahar. Who's else? Who can give us his opinion? Huh? Who's else? Is there anyone else? Is there any activities? Do you use the activities, the text book, or do you have activities which you adapt? Is there an activity which you adapt? Okay.
If there is more time, we can adapt some activities.
You can adapt some activities like what?
Rhymes and tongue twisters.
Tongue twisters.
Rhymes.
Rhymes.
And some stories as well.
Homonyms, rhymes, storytelling.
Oh, okay. Is there an idea? Are these activities useful for your learners? Are they useful?
Yes.
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 Why? Why, Ms. Sahar?
So students find fun doing these activities.
They can find these activities are funny, and they feel pleasure.
They creates a good atmosphere. They creates a good atmosphere.
Okay, Mr. Saad.
Creates a good atmosphere and involves all the pupils. They all participate in these exercises.
Okay, Mr. Said. These activities help people to participate, and they can involve all the students. It helps shy students to participate. Okay, Mr. Ahmed, Mr. Hab, you raise your hand. You can speak. Oh, go on, Mr. Hab.
Some activities in the textbook are very useful for pupils. It gives them the chance to move and use their body language, and this is very important. It's change class atmosphere and give them more fun.
Okay, I agree with you, Mr. Hab. There are some activities in the books, in the set books. I think it's very useful. I used one of them last year about the irregular verbs, and I think it's very, very funny with the pupils. The pupils feel happy and fun.
Yes.
Who is speaking? Who can speak? Mr. Ahmed Mahdi, can you speak?
Yes.
Go on, Mr. Ahmed.
This activity involve more pupils, give the shy pupils a chance to participate.
Give pupils to participate, and it helps shy learners to participate. I think many activities help shy students to participate. Are there any activities would you like to use with your learners? Is there any activities would you like to use with your learners?
I think when we present games.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. AbdulWahab.
Go on, Mr. Said. We have.
There is a very funny activity. It's called the chain drill. I have learned it before from Mr. Ahmed Higazi. God bless him. I like him very much. It's called the chain drill, in which I ask the pupils a question, such as what's your favorite season. The pupil is asking the same question to the next pupil. The pupil is next to him, and so on and so on until all the students ask the pupils next to them.
Okay, this is a question. This is the activity like whisper.
It's called the chain drill.
Okay,
Chain drill.
chain drill, and like I think it's like whisper.
Yes.
I think it like that. Look at these statements made by some teachers. Listen and match each of one to the statements they are responded to. These are some statements about teachers. I think I ask you to listen carefully and try to choose. Think which one. The first one.
It's true that sometimes each unit of a course book follows a predictable pattern, and that while this can be reassuring for the teacher and students, it can also become monotonous. If you know of other activities, you can introduce these instead when appropriate, or you can adapt the coursebook activities to add variety to the lessons.
What do you think? This stay related to 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5? Which one? What about number 2? Listen to it carefully.
It's true that this activity can be used to practice a range of language. There are other activities which can also be adapted in this way, such as dictogloss, role plays, jigsaw reading, and so on. During this module, you'll see examples of these activities.
Okay. This number 2 is, number B is which 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5? I'll give you a chance. What about number 3?
This is probably true for most teachers. You want your learners to enjoy the lessons, and most of your groups probably have their favorites, which you might do as a reward for good behavior or hard work. At the same time, however, it's important to be aware that different activity types have different underlying purposes, and that the activities you choose ought to correspond to lesson aims.
Okay, what about number 4? Where is the mouse?
Yes, all teachers want their learners to have fun and for learning to be a positive experience in their classroom. However, there are other factors to consider, such as the language or skills you want to develop, appealing to all of your learners' preferences and meeting all of their needs. It is important to consider advantages and drawbacks too.
Okay, the last one.
As a teacher, you probably tend to collect as many activities as you can. Teachers are always on the lookout for new ideas. There's nothing wrong with this, but introducing new and fun activities all the time does not guarantee effective teaching and learning. You also need to consider the suitability and effectiveness of activities in achieving learning aims and not just their novelty value.
Okay, let's check your answer. This is number A, B, C, D, and the last one is this is E. Now we are going to talk about these are some activities. Find someone who, role play, jumble sentences, and jigsaw reading, puzzles and riddles. These are some activities. The first one, what skills or language do these activities practice? The second question, what might these activities be used to? The first one, do you have an idea about find someone who can give us about this activity? Do you have an idea about it? Who is speak? Who can speak? Who can speak about find someone who can tell us about find someone who?
Yes, mister.
Okay, who's speaking?
I think Miss Nashwa. I think is remembering.
Go on, Miss Nashwa. We hear you.
Remembering.
We can't hear you clearly, Miss Nashwa.
Remembering, mister. Remembering.
This is remembering. Find someone who this is about remembering. Okay. I have a box of it. I do a picture of it. Find someone who we can write some questions and ask pupils to answer and write the names of them under each question. You can make some information, you can get some information from the pupils about themselves. And we can make some knowledge about you, like Facebook do with us. He know what we know from the page we enter, and you know what do you prefer. What about role play? Role play. Go on, Mr. Ab. You raise your hand.
Yes, role-playing practice conversation or dialogue.
Okay, practice conversation. What skills do you think this activity practice? This activity practice what?
Talking, speaking,
reading,
and
it's practice reading, listening, and pronunciation. I think it's about pronunciation and use function language. But what about jumbled sentences? Jumbled sentences. What about jumbled sentences? We have only 3 minutes. Please.
Puzzle sentences or words that has to be put together in a proper sequence in order to make a complete, correct sentence.
Okay, Jackson reading. Do you have an idea about Jackson reading? Do you have an idea about Jackson reading? We can use Jackson reading. We use them with comprehension or paragraphs and ask people to read them quickly. Read them quickly, and give you the chance to answer the question. Okay, and I will ask one of the groups and divide the people into groups. Choose one of the group to explain the ideas of this passage to the other groups, and we can discuss together. Puzzle and riddles, we can do it like this one. I leave it at the end. This is check back, check your answers. This is answer of this type of activity, and this is skills, and this is what the activity might be used to provide context of develop problem solving and develop oral communication and what develop oral communication skills, bring the real world into the classroom, give all the learners an opportunity to speak, and the last one, find someone who provide a purpose for communication, develop speaking confidence, and promote a positive classroom, dramatic, provide opportunities for learners to practice language. I think these activities all help students to practice language and gives them the chance to practice the language. This is what we are going to talk about. We have some tasks in the classroom. I'll ask you to go to the classroom, but we have finished the training. We have only three meeting only in this training, but I ask you, I have a meeting inshallah during this year. If you like to join us, this is not related with this NTTB training. This is special for me only. If you want, I'll ask you to join us. Thank you so much for your ideas. What points to improve? I want to ask you, what are the points you want us to improve in the second section? Mr. Ahmed Sami.
I want to answer the icebreaker, please. The icebreaker.
Okay, I give you the chance. What is the answer? Who can give us the answer? Who can give the answer?
Yes.